Phoenix Rising lost again. Find out what it means for their playoff chances here tonight on the PHNX Rising podcast. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the PHNX Rising podcast. Appreciate everyone joining us here on a Monday. It's not the normal Tuesday. It's the Monday because of the Friday game. You know how we do. Make sure to hit a like on your way in here. I am Max David Simpson, and I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Owain the Oracle Evans.
You almost got that one wrong.
Almost said
didn't
your
you?
name wrong. That's a great start. On the
Good
left,
start, mate.
and over on my right, we have Rees, the hot dog helper, the sausage spewer, the stat lackey himself, Rees, Mr. Goodall. Gentlemen, how we doing?
I was doing good until you brought up the hot dogs. Now my stomach's feeling a bit weird again.
You weren't doing good here.
That's true. I was doing.
We had to watch that abomination of a doubleheader.
Yeah, you guys had the pleasure of watching that in person, so it was.
We were talking about the D-backs.
Yeah,
That was bad as well. I mean,
it's just how down bad we are, isn't it?
I put in the tweet that I put out for tonight's pod of, if you think about it, right, outside of Cardinals, right, who, their season's a little bit longer, further down the road, their playoff picture, if they were even to sneak in somehow.
Aren't they 1-3?
I know. What I'm going to be betting at is that's not even till January, playoffs. Essentially, Phoenix Rising holds Valley Sports in the fate of their hands. Gentlemen, how do we feel about that?
I mean, the Suns start in like a month.
No,
Not
but
even
like
a month.
their playoffs aren't till April, so.
When are Rising's playoffs?
I guess we might
Next
find
year.
out.
Find out soon.
2025.
We will
find
find
out soon.
out. I mean, listen, as you guys know, right, we'll do a bit of the review tonight from Rising's 2-1 collapse is a pretty nice way to put it. I believe that's the technical term of their match over the weekend against Las Vegas Lights. And then we'll kind of give you guys some fun playoff scenarios and newsflash.
They're
not that fun.
No.
Jinx. All right. Well, let's dive into some of the numbers from Las Vegas Lights and kind of just looking at that again. Appreciate you, Stat Like Rees, for diving these up. I mean, here's the thing. You look at the XG. Again, this was a match that finished 2-1, Rising with 0.68 XG, Las Vegas Lights with 0.87. Here's the big one. I can talk to you about chances created. It was half of what Vegas got. I can talk to you about shots on target. It was 1-5. But Owain, you guys mentioned in the post game 6 total shots for Phoenix Rising, their lowest all season. They were outpossessed, and really, from kind of watching, and you guys were there. You kind of watched the whole thing. Not a Rising performance where they looked all that threatening.
Right. You talk about the XG. Let's just start by saying off the bat that you have to consider the fact that 57% of Rising's XG total came from Rémi Cabral's goal alone. Okay? That's misleading. It's misleading to say, the XG wasn't necessarily that far apart in that sense because it all came from one chance for the most part, right? 6 shots, lowest total they've had all season long, 1 on target. Another number in there that we can throw in there, 38 final third entries, the lowest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how they were playing. They were playing, looking for attempts on the transitions, but it was a kind of style of football that leaves you at times exposed in certain ways, especially if you concede late as they did, right? You expect kind of the heads to drop in that point. You were playing, it felt like they were playing in a lot of that game. Once they took the 1-0 lead, they were playing just to hold on to it. They'll talk about maybe looking for the second, but it didn't feel like they were doing enough to really look for that second. And so this team ends up where they ended up, and that is you collapse at the very end, and you're not going to find your footing, even if it is for only another 3 minutes or so at the end you had to play for.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Rees, you also were there in person. I think, the thing on kind of the rewatch aspect was I think there's been times where Rising can give you kind of the false hope of, hey, there's a chance here and there, as Owain just put, right? There really wasn't much. You can give the effort for Rémi Cabral's goal, not only in, how he forced that bad pass that eventually led to his goal, and also the finish was nice. But really outside of that, it just seemed that they were slow in the buildup. And I think when you have kind of seen that, you typically then rely on the defense, and there were some shaky moments there too.
Yeah, the defense, I thought it was an okay performance from there. I'm used to seeing them be the best players on the pitch, seeing Pop Marboy be one of the best defenders in this league, and he picked up that early yellow card on the handball when Vegas were pushing into transition. Bit of a weird one. It was one we talked about where he was possibly the last guy, so could have gotten more from that. And then Traore picked up a yellow when Mayor picked up a yellow. So when that's your three center backs all on yellow cards at some point in the match, and that's something you just don't want to see. That's a bit of undiscipline, in my opinion, in some cases there. And I think Rising need to figure that out going forward. It's not a problem that they've had all season, but they need to figure out going into this difficult stretch to end the season.
I'll bring up that point on Pat Marboy specifically because we did kind of touch on it, but not really a lot. I've had the chance to watch it back now. There is a case to be made, right? The pass is going through to a teammate at that point as it's handled. There is a case to be made that teammate probably is at that point through on goal, right? That Alejandro Mayor, who's coming across the cover, may not be able to actually get there. So there is potentially a case that it could have been a red card in that moment.
I think it's harsh.
It isn't given. It may feel a bit harsh, but the thing about it is it's dog show cards, right? They come as just the cost of doing business at times when you commit fouls in those kind of areas.
You aren't wrong. I mean, listen, I think the other thing that, in listening back, and by the way, guys crushed it on the post game as you do. One thing to note is, right, there was a good bit. I think you guys made a nice kind of note of it. Is there have been games in the past where Rising are almost playing towards, when they have a midweek game, you kind of see them playing towards one game over the other of like, hey, let's put our chips into this. Let's see if we can get the win here. If you end up getting the win in the weekend or what have you, so be it. Kind of seemed like Phoenix Rising, I mean, they had some questionable lineup decisions, I think, in some aspect for Saturday's match, but you kind of get the feeling that you don't really know sometimes the consistency from lineup to lineup, right? We question the choice of Charlie Dennis being on the bench in favor of Jose Andres Hernandez. This match, there were a couple choices that some guys who regularly are not in the starting 11, heck, maybe not even getting predominant minutes, were in that starting 11. And we understand you have to rotate, but with needing at least one of these as a must 3 points, it didn't really feel like they went all in either match, did it?
No, it didn't. And I didn't get the choice to start both Tomás Ángel and Rémi Cabral together. That duo only completed one pass to each other, and that was the 9th minute. Rémi Cabral played a ball to Ángel, and Ángel immediately lost it.
So it was like a 4-yard pass at most as well,
exactly.
wasn't it? Like it was nothing.
Nothing between those two, and that's not something that I think Diego Gomez would have wanted to see from the two. And then, but I mean, they did have the bright spot of Jearl Margaritha, but still, the Rémi Cabral and Tomás Ángel experiment of them two up top just did not work at all, in my opinion.
Right, and then you get into the question then of is that the two of them don't work together, or was it just that Tomás Ángel had a very, very poor game? I know that's been one of the more dominant kind of talking points coming out of that match, and there's a reason for it. Because he was bad. He was very, very bad in that game.
Yeah.
Okay? He had the chance to create chances for other teammates, didn't really do so. He didn't look particularly convincing on his own shots that he took. And when you were an attacking player like that, those are the things you're going to be judged on. And again, the pressure keeps mounting and mounting. He has to do something. If they're going to keep starting him, he has to have something at the end of it that you can point to. And it's not little process things. It's not the kind of, well, he made the right run, as though you're talking as though things are going to come together at some point. It has to be, what did you actively do to influence the outcome of this match today? Because again, we've been saying this for weeks. This team now is beyond the point where it's stuff will come together. Give it time. None of that is available anymore to you, because you have 5 games left. You have teams knocking on the door behind you, and you need results now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the chat is picking it up. Right. Make sure, by the way, to hit that like button. Make producer Kyle happy. That way he doesn't get on our case. Kevin in the chat, right? And how it was awful. The 3-versus-1 break was possibly the worst sequence of
Oh,
the
it was
season.
truly terrible.
Yeah, I mean, D-Goalie absolutely kind of echoing that exact same thing. And then Kevin in the chat slide the ball across, and 2 players are in for a tap in. Jet even saying Tomás Ángel has to have the worst case of the yips ever. And oh boy, it's that PHNX D-backs. Shout out to those guys. Going live later. Speaking of the yips, but listen, I mean, I will say this, right? I mean, listen, I've been curious to see if you can get an extended look with Tomás Ángel and Rémi Cabral. And while it's interesting seeing it together, I don't want to be saying the word interesting when you're at this point in the season where you're at now. This would have been lovely to see couple games back. And yes, Rémi Cabral not available for fitness, working him back. I totally get that. I think where you're at now, I like seeing it in theory, but that's just it. We're not able to play in theory. We're not able to play in speculation. It didn't work. And I think for what you could potentially get within attacking prowess with those two both in the lineup, you sacrifice so much in the midfield, and you saw it today. You saw it on Saturday where Ryzen got outran in the midfield, where they were outpossessed, and you can't even say hanging in the Raptors FC, possession FC didn't help because they lost the battle. That's if they don't have that, what do they have?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a good question. You know what? We've been speaking a lot about our views on the game. Should we have a listen to someone else's views on the game? Should we have a listen to Diego Gomez and what he said after the match?
Oh, it's a tough loss. You have the 1-0 until the minute 96, and then you lost 1-2. It's a very tough loss. We knew that we can hurt them in the transition, and that we need to pick our moments to press, especially after the 3 games week when the team was tired. And against a very good Las Vegas team, so we create our chances in transition. We scored the first goal through a very good press, and then the plan was to stay compact, wait, and those chances that we have running after to try to kill the game. We didn't score the second one, and then at the end, in a foul, they tie us, and that hurts.
Yeah, when you look at the game as a whole, do you think that you deserve to come away with something from tonight?
Yes, we think we deserve. After the 3 games week, Vegas is a very good team. We did what we needed to do a little bit. That is, be good in transition, have moments that we wanted to keep the ball. We wanted to keep it a little bit more. Yes, at some point, but in the moment that we scored that first goal, we felt that where we are going to be more dangerous was in transition, and we have very good moments and chances to finish the game. It didn't come out.
All right, I'm gonna have to kick in here and talk a little bit on this one, because I feel as though I understand he's saying they were hoping for the second goal, but some of the actions and some of the subs and the decisions made out there make me question that a little bit, right? So Rémi Cabral scores in the 60th minute. At that point, Phoenix Rising were at 1-0. Rémi Cabral comes out. I understand that, right? He classes into the goalkeeper as he scores his goal. You want someone who's a little bit more steady on the feet, maybe at that point after an incident like that. So you're going to take him off. I understand that one, okay? But you bring Renzo Zambrano on, it's a little bit more negative. But again, it is what it is. When you then make a decision later on in that half that you're going to take off Tomás Ángel and you're going to bring on Juan Carlos Azacar as his replacement. Yes, you have DJ out there. Yes, you have Jearl Margaritha out there. But do you have a real out-and-out centre forward out there? No, you don't. And it's not as though that wasn't an option that was available to him. You had Darius Formella. I know we've obviously done the whole thing this season about he is not a true number 9. And yeah, we all know that. We know he's more of a winger. But if you're looking to keep the pressure up on a team and maybe look for that second goal to put the game away, you don't play for 13-odd minutes from about the 75th minute onwards without a proper striker out there. You don't do that, because at that point, all you're doing, you're accepting that you're going to invite a lot of pressure. You're bringing defensive players out there because it's as though I know he says again, you're going to play compact, but the risk of that is that you see exactly what we saw happen, right? You play that defensive game and think you can sit back and think that you can weather the storm. But if the other team find the breakthrough, you don't really have it in you to step back up the gears. And yeah, it was a late breakthrough in the end, with an even later winning goal for Vegas.
Yeah.
But I just don't really get how quickly it became so negative late in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think like even when, you see Tomás Ángel, again, we've gone on record saying it earlier in tonight's podcast, right? Of, he's not putting the ball in the back of the net. He's not being clinical. He's not contributing to the bottom line. But when you take him off, regardless of his performance on pitch, he does do things where, he's able to provide even the threat of an attacking threat, albeit, it's not scoring up, but at least you're having a number 9 out there as someone who is playing that forward position. It at least has to keep the defense honest in theory. And a lot of his work, that work rate off the ball, does help clog up the midfield, which was where Vegas was having some moments of opportunity. When you take him off and you essentially are replacing him with those wide players, and that's kind of where you're replenishing, you really saw there was a lot of that attack, which was kind of going through the middle, and that's where you're kind of conceding that ground. I mean, it's a bold strategy, and I understand maybe if you're going to do that for the last 5 minutes, but for the last 15 plus, knowing there was also 7 minutes of stoppage time on paper, it's a long time to go without number 9.
Yeah, and that's the risk you run with starting on Ángel and Cabral together, is you don't really have a number 9 on the bench. And just looking at the average positions from that second half, Formella was out wide, pretty much where Edgardo Rito was, and we all know he likes to play very wide. And then Azakar was central. So I don't get that change at all. To me, it's one where you're sacrificing any chance of a goal, because Azakar really can't finish. Formella is clinical at times, but hasn't shown it at times this season. And Margaritha did score against Loudoun, and it was a fluky goal for him. But I think that's one of my biggest gripes with Diego Gomez, is that his substitutions at times, he takes the wrong players off either too early, and he doesn't make the direct change. He'll make substitutions like this one with Ángel, where he brings on a separate player and then brings on the player that should have replaced him later on.
I think that's kind of the story of this week, though, when you look at it, right? Look, where this team is right now is a product of its entire season, okay? There's a reason these games are must-win games right now, and that reason is because they didn't make the right decisions over the off-season. They didn't make the right decisions earlier on in the season. We've spoken about this a lot. I'm sure we will really, really dissect this all again when the season eventually comes to its end, whenever that may be. But this past week has been a story, I think, of failures on the coaching staff side, right? They come off of that San Antonio win. They're in a really good place, okay? They win it 4-0. A lot of things went right in that game that haven't been going right all season long. The coaching staff make the decision they're going to rotate players around then for the Wednesday game. If Phoenix Rising win on Wednesday, you don't necessarily care as much about that Vegas game. It's one of those things that a lot of people say about, oh, well, yeah, but we want to focus because we're looking up the table. But if you beat Orange County, at least you're in. Right now, what we're doing is we're looking down the table. Yep. We're looking down the table at the teams behind Rising and questioning whether they're going to make it into the playoffs. You beat Orange County, that isn't a question that we are asking realistically right now. And then they go into the Vegas game after dropping the game in Orange County for, again, I think reasons of just rotation that wasn't necessarily necessary, at least to start in that Orange County game. Maybe you make subs earlier, but you didn't have to start the game by changing as many players as you did. And you go into this Vegas game and we see something completely different. We see players out there in ways that we maybe haven't seen before. We see them trying new things. We see them trying a style of play that's more negative, I think, than we've seen from Phoenix Rising. And we see the subs that, when you're in a winning position, kind of try and ramp up playing even more negatively again.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that the points that were dropped this week were points dropped primarily because of decisions made on the part of the coaching staff. But again, it all exists in the context of this season at large hasn't been good enough. The blame for that is going to have to be doled out in different places. That's not all on Diego Gomez by any stretch of the imagination. Sure. And if it wasn't for all of that context, this week wouldn't have been must win in the way that it has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're putting it well. Like, this week has been kind of the microcosm of what people have been feeling all season. And, this is a larger conversation. This is not one that has been isolated to this week. We have had seemingly this conversation week after week, whether or not it has been a win, a draw, or a loss every week. And it's not because we're trying to be pessimistic. It's because it's a realistic thing that there are deeper holes to this squad than what you see on a results platform. And the results platform hasn't been consistent enough to kind of stave off any of those allegations or how, we're feeling, how the fan base are feeling. There's something deeper that runs through here. And, kind of the thing is, right, as you're kind of saying, if you are going to go all out Wednesday on that match, play for the win there. In theory, it makes sense knowing that, number one, Orange County is a weaker team than Vegas. They've had worse form and everything like that. And, yes, you're going away, but that's your opportunity to say, hey, let's get 3 points here. And that way, to your point, do you absolutely kick the curb and say, throw Saturday out the window? No, but you're just not having to put that pressure on yourself. You lose on Wednesday in honestly not really relatively convincing fashion. Then all the pressure falls you on Saturday against a short rest week, against a more tough opponent. And I think that's kind of where you saw yourself. I mean, listen, you guys were there, and I know that there's been some conversations, some stuff that we will not say on here, but there's been a lot of, I think, animosity from people, how they're feeling, not just throughout the season, but especially after Saturday's match.
You mentioned some of the tensions. I think we need to not bury the lead as we're getting into this, and we need to be honest about what happened after the match on Saturday, right? There were clearly arguments going on between certain people in the stands and players after the match. There was anger there. Again, I know football's an emotional sport. I know that after a loss like that, people are going to be emotional. It's not a good look. You have the club sporting director getting into a shouting match with a fan after the game. That's a terrible look. Now, we've seen these things happening on Twitter in the past, but for that to now spill into real life after a game at the stadium, that is awful. And it really raises the questions here as to move on, right? It's not enough to just think you've got passion and all the boys, they want it.
There's a difference.
You've got to have a unified group there that's working in concert. And if you are getting into a point whereby you've got senior club officials arguing with fans, you've got players arguing with fans, does that sound like a club that's put together enough to actually make a run and get the points they need at the end of this season? Knowing that they are up against it right now. They are in a difficult position and they need points. And we'll get into exactly why and how many they probably need later on. But they need things to come together right now. And rightly or wrongly in each individual's cases here, you can't get into those kind of moments and expect that you're going to come out of it with a successful outcome. But I mean, look, I think it unfortunately just shows, I think, where the general feeling is at the moment around this club. It is not positive. It is not the everyone rowing in the same direction kind of image that certain people would like to portray. And that is why this club is now in the position that it is in.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the TIFO earlier this year of Dooley out, McCarthy out. We've seen tons of posts on X from different people of
we can call it by its own name.
Rees. I had to call it X on Sunday for ASU soccer, so now I'm like confused again. But I mean, we've all seen it. The fan outpour of just anger from this last match, and if they miss the playoffs, it'll only get louder. I don't even want to imagine opening up Twitter. Imagine opening up Facebook the day after if they miss the playoffs. It's going to be toxic.
I agree, but here's the thing. That Facebook group, and we all know the Facebook group, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Shout out everyone who's in the Facebook group. We always have a laugh in there, don't we? It's it's home to some of the worst rising takes I've ever seen, but also some people who are very correct. And what I think we saw on the weekend is that group came to life in a way it hasn't for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's not great. It's not positive. We also have to note the crowds, right? I saw someone way up in the chat brought up the crowd situation, right? I know there are the mitigating factors, right? It's hot. The D-backs were playing an important game that night, all those kind of things. 3 home games and weekends in a row, yeah? The metro area, I always say this, the metro area is bigger than the population of Croatia, okay? We need to put some context in this. And if you don't know how to get people out there, there are real questions about, do you really know how to work the market? Do you really know how to market this club? Do you really know how to bring people out when you have meaningful games late in the season?
Yeah.
Rising are the only team, by the way, so far that have not put the attendance is not on the league's website from the weekend. Every other game from the weekend in USL Championship, the attendance is on the league website. Rising is the only one that isn't yet on there. I can tell you, yeah, a lot of people probably who had tickets didn't show up because it was hot and pretty miserable there. But there were also a lot, if you looked on that seat map before the game, there were a lot of tickets that were also left completely unsold. So
and that's all. Listen, man, like it's always going to be harder in those hot months, and that's never been something new to this team, or really, I mean, sports kind of going on in this state, or really whenever it's hot. But that's not a full-on excuse to see the low level. That's where it's at. And yes, there's some stuff that's on pitch that's contributing to that. Some stuff that's off pitch. But I mean, I think you're now seeing this, right? I mean, what do we always hear that it's a problem when the fans stop caring? Well, if they're not showing up, that's also another thing. If they can't voice their opinion because they're not there, it's a tough look too, man. I mean, listen, we can keep on going on this, and I'm sure we'll probably get into it later. But we do want to, we do have more stuff to talk about. I know you had something, one more thing from rising interim head coach Diego Gomez.
Yeah, Diego Gomez. Yeah, let's have a quick listen to those slightly bigger picture thoughts from Diego.
We stood here last week, obviously, after a 4-0 win in a must-win game. We've since had 2 games that you've described as must-win games and lost both of them. What do you think that tells you about where this team is right now?
No, it's clear that it was a must-win game, those 2, and next Friday is going to be another must-win game. I think there are details in all the games, and today was a detail that changed a little bit the output. If today we don't concede a foul and we win 1-0, probably it's another different feeling.
Right now, how confident are you this team will make the playoffs?
Very confident. I am very confident. I trust the team. I'm still feeling good about everybody, and I feel very confident that we'll make it to playoffs.
As a confident man as he is. Well, listen, we're going to chat more specifically about playoff scenarios and see if that confidence, if kind of what that looks like. But on the other side of the break. But first, let's chat to you guys about our friends over at Branded Bills. Branded Bills. Go on to brandedbills.com. Use promo code PHNX and you get 20% off of your first order. You look at right above each of these gentlemen, actually kind of about right above their heads. You're going to see, some Branded Bills hats on our shelves. Right above Owain is one of our ASU hats because they have a partnership with Branded Bills. And then
Didn't know that was back there.
Yes, and then on Rees, he has a U of A cap right above him. Yeah,
he looks really thrilled.
He doesn't like that, but we do love our friends. Yeah. Over our friends at Branded Bills. It's a great time there. Right, again, they have all kinds of great stuff from the trucker hats to the snapbacks to, everything with just the nice fitted brim. It's all great stuff. They have custom orders. We got some custom orders coming in soon. More information on that as it gets a little bit later in the year. That's all I'm going to say. But brandedbills.com, just a great place. All the different types of things there. You can get an Arizona state flag hat. You can get flag hats for all the different states throughout the country. I mean, support Arizona, but tell your friends. It's holiday season coming around the corner. brandedbills.com. Again, promo code PHNX for 20% off your first order over at brandedbills.com. Alrighty. And of course, our friends over at Circle K. Circle K, right? They got the Inner Circle program. It's a darn good time over there. And you got a little Polar Pop.
It's really hot. You need that
Polar Pop. That Polar Pop. Fill up. Save that money on gas as well. 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill ups. It's that darn easy. Circle K. It's hot out. I mean, listen, you gotta this team, right? They gotta find some ice in their veins. You can find some ice in that Polar Pop. They got the best ice out there, the crunchy ice. You know what I'm talking about. On the Polar Pop. Don't look at me like I'm skeptical, gentlemen. We all get the great ice. They have the best ice over at Circle K. I had a bid for this. I really did have something for our Circle K read. It was about you, Owen, and I completely forgot it. But Circle K, I'm not forget. No, we
Probably
don't
a
clap
good
that.
thing, yeah.
We don't clap that. Our Circle K and their Inner Circle program, we definitely don't forget that. Use it every day. Check them out. Again, all you got to do, download the app, opt in with a phone number. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations for details.
All right. Before we get into anything else, Max, ice?
Yeah.
I feel like ice is ice.
That's no.
They
Dude,
stays cold.
No.
I mean,
Circle K ice is the best.
But the other thing I
ice.
just want to say, since we were talking about the crowds, I just want to give a shout out because I just had like an ad on a page that's on here. No, because this is really relevant. It's a Phoenix Rising ad, and it's advertising today, by the way, on Monday the 30th of September, tickets for Phoenix Rising versus Las Vegas Lights on September 28th.
Oh.
Like, look at this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
fun.
it.
Yeah.
Is it? Well, okay, listen.
There we go. Well put together.
That's something. Well, listen, that game has come and passed, and that means that we have to take a look at the USL standings. Oh boy, out in the West again. Brief rundown, as you guys know, New Mexico, they're pulling away from it as they do on 57 points in first place. Okay, getting a little bit more distance. We've been saying, it's 2 and 6 are in contention. Now I'm kind of looking at 2 through 5 are all separated by 4 points. So you got Sacramento on 47 points, Colorado Springs dropping down to 46 points.
I will say Sac, though, hopping back up there off the back of that real thumping victory over New Mexico.
It was a
4-0.
It was a thumping, indeed. Colorado Springs on 46 points. Vegas with the win over Phoenix. They're in 4th with 46 points. And Memphis in 5th with 43 points. Oakland kind of in that weird middle spot. 6 seems, you never know what could happen, but 6 seems like a relatively likely outcome for them on 40 points. Rising 7th place on 36 points, but oh no, this is where there could have been some separation. Orange County on 35 points. And then you get into the contenders. Tulsa, 34 points in 9th. They are 1 point below the playoff line, 2 points below Phoenix Rising. Rising does have a bit of separation against the rest of the pack. San Antonio, 31 points in 10th. Monterey Bay, 30 points in 11th. So there is a hope for those teams, but not by much. And then El Paso, well, they're doing El Paso things.
I mean,
25
El
points.
Paso are kind of dead men walking right now, but at the same time, they are walking, at least.
They got a limp.
They've picked up 4 points in their last 2 games. So
Yeah.
as much as they're out of it, they're not entirely out of it in the sense of they're going to lose every single game necessarily going forward.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to get into some specific playoff scenarios. And listen, we can go forward and look at every single team that's below Rising with Sac and Monterey Bay, but that's not quite where we need to do. So let's take a look at the scenarios for just Orange County and for Tulsa. Those are 2 teams that are right below Rising within the closest striking distance.
Right, because it's kind of a 3-horse race right now for 2 places.
Barring something crazy.
Barring something bizarre,
Which
yeah.
maybe check with us in a week.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But just to run through those, for Orange County, for Rising to finish above Orange County, because they're 1 point ahead of them, but OC has the tiebreak, Rising must at least match, as a minimum, they've got to match Orange County's record across these final 5 games. They must match what OC does to finish above them.
Again, if we're breaking this down using a specific example, both clubs get 5 points. Okay, there
That's
we go.
fine. Rising
Orange County gets 6 points. Rising get 5. Now good.
OC finishes ahead, yeah.
Boom.
Okay. Then when you talk about Tulsa, and if we have a look at Tulsa in this one, finishing above FC Tulsa, Rising at the moment are 2 points ahead of Tulsa. Rising has the tiebreak in that scenario. So, at a minimum, for Rising to finish above FC Tulsa, they have to get whatever Tulsa get -2.
Yep.
So they must be within 2 points of FC Tulsa's final points haul in order to finish above FC Tulsa.
Yep, so doing some math. Rising get 5 points. Tulsa gets 7. We're good. Okay, they have the tiebreaker. Now, that is helpful. The Orange County one, a little bit stressful, but again, there are 2 spots up for grab. Rising does have that 1 point lead. But I mean, Rees, you're kind of hearing that it's a very low margin for error. Do you think Rising, does that help them, that they're kind of being, in a way, the hunted right now, being in that 7th spot? Because we've already been seeing they've been dropping possible points after possible points to give them a cushion. And this is kind of where we're at now.
I mean, this Monterey Bay match on Friday, I think, just comes at the perfect time for Rising. Monterey Bay, I don't think they're a good team. They sit in, 11th place now? And that just comes at the perfect time for Rising. That's going to be a good match to try and get yourself back on track. Hopefully pick up the 3 points. Because if you pick up the 3 points, you're in a much better position. You could get in with 2 draws to end the year. To end the year. And I mean,
Potentially,
depending how results go.
Sure.
Depending how results go, you could get in with 2 draws after that Monterey Bay game, which would put you in a much better position. I think it'd take a lot of stress out of the rest of the season. Because you don't want to be in a position like the Dimebacks were in today, where you have to watch other games.
And that's realistic, right?
It is realistic.
Again, for Rising's final game of the season, they're playing in Novo. Their game will be one of the earlier kickoffs there. It's 4:30 Arizona time, I believe. And then Orange County play later that night at 7 p.m. for their final game of the season. You could be in a point where you are watching Orange County's game, the 7 p.m. kickoff, and you just have to hope that they find a way to drop points in order for Rising to make it in.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is Friday's match is the second to last home game for Rising. It's their last home game until their penultimate game of the season where, what's that? On Fan Appreciation Night, Memphis 901, make a visit.
Samanakis, John Baquero, guys that Rising knows.
Yeah, it's a
they
bit
beat
of...
Rising 5-1 earlier
They're
this
not
season.
going to have a chip of the shoulder, not at all.
And have gotten better probably
Again,
since then.
they finished after Friday. They'll finish with 1 home game in their final 4 matches. And again, yes, you have Oakland roots, which again, like there is a path forward to this. Yes, to Rees's point, 2 draws are possible. But again, you play New Mexico away. You play Louisville away. Memphis is not an easy competition at home. Even going to Oakland, that's going to be on a short rest. You have a midweek match. None of these are easy. So you need to take care of business where you can. Friday, it actually gives you an extra rest day because you have that Wednesday travel to Albuquerque, which... well, woof, because of Albuquerque. But right, you got to take care of business where you can, right? It's not though. However, again, Rising is in the driver's seat.
I will say though, actually, you're bringing up Albuquerque, you're bringing up Oakland games that are coming ahead. Just as a reminder, in that one, Curacao will be playing Grenada around about that time. Dick Avocat has already named his Curacao squad. Jearl Margaritha is.
Rees is devastated.
That Curacao squad.
We're cooked.
We're cooked. I mean, honestly, like you can make you can make the very real statement that in this week it has been. I mean, I would say without a doubt, Jearl Margaritha has been the best player for Phoenix Rising. Certainly overall, but I would say in each of the matches.
Yeah, the match against past match against on Saturday, he delivered the assist. He was lethal on that left side. I still think he's best on the right though, and I want to see him use more on the right, and that's where he plays on for Curacao. But still, best player, you're gonna be missing him for those matches.
Oh well, this team has had difficulty with attacking output. How about Jearl Margaritha missing a match likely? But let's take a look again. This is not, Rising is the hunted, right? They do, in theory, control their own destiny. It's not in theory, like they do. But, right, would it be nice if maybe the other teams kind of in their path trip up a bit? Let's take a look, right? Path forward for Orange County, right? Who are they playing left in their final 5 matches? Again, guys, we are now in 5 matches left for each of these teams. We were saying double digits, it felt like a month ago, because we were. Orange County, they finish, here we go, away to Vegas in 4th place, home to Colorado Springs in 3rd place, El Paso away, bottom of the table, New Mexico at home, 1st in the table, and then Hartford to finish the season away in 9th place. You're looking at that. Vegas, Springs, New Mexico are going to be...
Sorry, that should be Hartford home to win the season.
Got you. Good correction there. Vegas, Springs, New Mexico, those are going to be tough matches, regardless, home or away. El Paso and Hartford, especially Hartford being at home, those should be points in theory. What do you make of those 5 matches that Orange County has to play?
There are some tough games in there.
How many points do they get?
They could get 6.
I think 6 is very fair.
Because
Yeah.
Hartford, because
One more
El
time,
Paso.
producer Kyle.
There is a chance there when you have Hartford and El Paso in there that you pick up points in both of those games, wins in both of
Yeah,
those
I mean,
games.
you can totally see that.
And that puts the pressure on Rising because right now, yeah, we're looking at Monterey Bay and saying we can see 3 points there, but we're not sure necessarily where another win would necessarily come from. And even if they get draws, remember, they need to match whatever OC get to finish above Orange County.
So if they get 6 points,
If OC
Rising
gets
needs
6
6 points.
Rising needs 6 points, which means they either need to win 2 games or they're going to need a win 1 and draw 3.
Oh, God.
And I don't necessarily see them drawing 3.
I don't see them winning.
I can see them. I can see them. If you were
kinda see
talking
drawing
like
3.
4 or 5
Yeah.
points, I can see a potential path for Phoenix Rising to do it.
Yeah.
6 maybe pushing it a little bit much, but I can see Orange County potentially getting 6 points in that haul, 6-point haul from those.
I mean, you say El Paso and
probably
Hartford.
4 minimum. I'd say. I reckon they get 4 minimum.
I think El Paso and Hartford, I mean, again, you play these matchups on the pitch and not on paper. But if you're looking on paper, I mean, if you don't get 6 points, I feel you'd be pretty, even though Orange County has not been in amazing form, you got to think that those are 6 points in the bag.
They've also got to travel all the way over to the West Coast for that. The Hartford have to for that game.
That's true.
Hartford will probably have fixture congestion because of the match being postponed against Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Yeah.
All those things kind of add in.
Yeah, and they have to go away to El Paso in that time, and I think points at El Paso aren't guaranteed, and I think that could be a draw. So there are places that Orange County can slip up at, and that's where Rising are going to need to take advantage of themselves. Make sure you can pick up every point possible.
The other thing I'll say, when you look at Orange County's run in there, they have 2 game weeks? Yes, they do. But they don't have them in the same way that Rising have them. They've got a Saturday, Wednesday. They've got a Wednesday, Saturday, but they've got the Saturday off in the middle. So they don't have that 3 game in 8 day kind of stretch that often makes teams struggle, or a 3 game in 9 day stretch that makes teams struggle. They don't have to deal with that. That's normally when you see those struggles in terms of having to rotate players, in terms of having to find ways to conserve minutes for your starters. They don't have to face that.
Yeah.
So that definitely helps them.
Yeah, it very much could be interesting. I mean, even just from a neutral's perspective, that last match, Orange County versus Hartford, both teams, right? Orange County currently 8th in the West, Hartford currently 9th in the East. It could be coming down to both teams are fighting for playoff position.
Let's not forget as well, New Mexico late in the season for them. New Mexico could be in the proverbial Rick Chance, we've been on vacation for weeks kind of mode at that point. They could be. They could be, because the likelihood is they could well have first place wrapped up by that point. They will not catch teams in the East in terms of getting there for the top seed for hosting the final. So they could be in a position where they're not really battling for the match. Now, I don't think they'll take that approach against Phoenix Rising at all, but I could see maybe for certain other teams like Orange County, you may not care as much. You're not going to take as many risks.
Yeah, that's very fair. Well, that's one path that is chasing Phoenix Rising. Let's take a look at FC Tulsa, who's also chasing Phoenix Rising. Their last 5 away matches, they do have El Paso, the bottom of the West. That same El Paso, bottom of the West, at home for their next match. They then play North Carolina in 10th in the East, away on the road. Middle of the pack in New Mexico, first, top of the table in the West, in the middle of those 5 matches. They're at home for that. Hartford, 9th, again, right outside of that playoff position in the East, are at home for that. And then ending with Monterey Bay, 11th in the West, at home. If we just keep this up for just a second, producer Kyle, right? A couple things here. You're ending with 3 home games. Your 4 out of your last 5 matches are home. And you're looking at this outside New Mexico, a lot of toss-ups here. This is the one that kind of scares me.
There's 4 teams in that pack there that aren't in the playoffs. 4 of their last 5 games are against non-playoff teams right now.
That's kind of scary.
4 of their last 5 games are at home.
And you could make the case that New Mexico, they're going, right, it's not quite like, yes, you brought up the point of, Rick Chance, we're on vacation, everything like that. Could they be adopting that? Yes, but also there's not a lot to play for them. So you're looking at 4 teams who are outside of the playoffs. Hartford is, yes, they're fighting for it. And New Mexico, they might be, there's not much to play for. This is scary to me if you're Tulsa.
El Paso are playing for nothing. Monterey Bay, by that last match day, could well be playing for nothing. Probably will be playing for nothing going into that last match day. If they're playing for something, then things are getting even more worrying for Phoenix Rising. Probably means that they won the game here on Friday this coming week.
This path scares me more than Orange County.
Realistically. The thing that makes me laugh about this is that if you had to ask me who the better team is, I'd say that it's Orange County.
Without a doubt.
FC Tulsa I'm trying to think of the polite way of putting this, or more the way that we're allowed to say it on here. I probably describe them as being like canine excrement with a capital D. It's probably the best way that you can hint at what FC Tulsa are.
What could that mean?
But they're bad. You watch them play, they are sloppy. They are just really messy as a team.
Miami?
And yet it comes together. It comes together, and they're somehow competitive in some of these games. Aaron Bibout looking pretty decent since he's shown up, okay? He's found ways to get goals. He got a goal in that last game against Oakland. That Oakland win for FC Tulsa, real big difference maker. He got an early goal against Rhode Island as well. That team was unable to hang on in that game. But if they can go on a little stretch now, knowing that a lot of things are working in their favor, right? Again, 4 home games of their last 5. 4 games are against teams that are not in playoff positions.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about this seriously. If you take the home games against teams not in the playoffs and say that they win those 3, there are 9 points. We were saying we were struggling to see if Rising would get 6. Rising would need 7.
Yeah. I mean, for me, worst case scenario for FC Tulsa is 8 points. I have it written here as a win at home to El Paso. You draw away against North Carolina because drawing's always, or playing on the road's always difficult in this league. You lose at home to New Mexico, and then you draw one of the Hartford games or Monterey Bay, and you win the other. And that's worst case scenario in my eyes. I can't see that.
I can see them doing worse than that, but I also wouldn't guarantee it. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
They could do worse than that, but if you're banking on Tulsa to drop points right now, looking at the games that they have, I think you are really, really trying to ride some luck there.
You are. And again, this is where Rising does have that 2-point cushion against FC Tulsa. But if we're hearing at what you guys are saying, this can evaporate very quickly if FC Tulsa does, I'm not going to say the bare minimum, but if they do kind of paper math on a napkin, this is kind of what we think could happen. And you're looking at kind of these positions of the teams that they're facing. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Again, like Phoenix Rising, they have, you can maybe make the argument, 1, possibly 2 opponents that are, okay, you should get a result here, but you may not even argue that's a win. Again, Friday's matchup, in theory, is going to be, and maybe there's been some disagreement of, is the Monterey Bay matchup this Friday, is it going to be Oakland Roots on the road? One of those 2, you could make the arguments, take your pick, is what's going to be the easiest of your 5 remaining matchups. But that's just it, right? You face New Mexico on the road. You face Memphis in that revenge possible game. And dear gosh, if this comes down to Louisville on the road and we are just watching the chaos ball, it's going to be appointment television. We already have some stuff in the works here at PHNX Rising podcast, and it's going to be one heck of a time. But it's going to be very stressful. And listen, guys, it's not the craziest thing to say. It could come down to that.
If it does, I'm making the promise now that we will be finishing said show that night with me knocking back whatever's available at the hotel bar at that point, probably.
Partners are approved, yes. Again, this is kind of where we're looking at it. If you're seeing the cushion that they have over FC Tulsa, that could be evaporated. You're looking at, you have to go neck and neck, essentially, with Orange County, and all you have to do is match them. They might get more points than you. We're the one silver lining. Phoenix Rising controls their own destiny. But if things don't go the way that they want to, honestly, as soon as this weekend, that may change, and you might just be playing catch up, and that's a scary feeling.
Again, though, there's something to be said about controlling your own destiny is one thing. When you play the top team in each conference on the road in that last 5-game stretch,
Scared.
Yeah, you control your own destiny, but good luck controlling it. Good luck controlling that.
Oh boy. Well, this is a dark and a scary place. We kind of have to live here for a bit, but maybe brighter things ahead on the other side of the break. But first, let's talk about our friends at Valley Tap Room. Valley Tap Room, that's not a dark, scary place. That Tap Room is just a wonderful place. Great things happen there. Of course, the beers, the time, the merriment with friends, and Rees. What happened when we went to the Valley Tap Room?
Rees didn't
I
go,
wasn't there, so
That's
I don't
right.
know.
Well, but he
went
can afford to. No, we've asked you plenty.
Yeah.
What happened when Owen and I went?
I heard he had a great time drinking beers and eating food.
That's right.
We
Oh,
did.
and more specifically, what game did we watch?
Spain save football.
That's
we watched
right.
Spain save football. They saved it, Rees.
Reese said we want to implement a side counter, and that's actually not a bad idea. We might pull one from PHNX Hockey Podcast for that one. But Valley Tap Room, we're not having size there. Maybe when we have to leave, that's about it. But Valley Tap Room, 2 great locations over in Gilbert and in Queen Creek. Again, we will be doing some stuff as the season ends, the off season wraps around the corner. It will be there. Check out our friends over at Valley Tap Room at valleytaproom.com. And of course on socials over at Valley Tap Room. Also make sure to check us out at PHNX. Check out the PHNX Locker, baby, the PHNXlocker.com. Become a diehard today. It's just such great stuff, right? You got the merch. Owen and I, we text each other and we're like, you know what?
We definitely did not.
No, Owen and I were very much like, we want to make sure that we are matching today. We got Rees in the house, and like, right? It's like, hey, we want to make sure that at least the majority of the podcast tonight are wearing the exact same shirt. We coordinated it. It was effortless. It was that cool. It's also that effortless to buy these shirts over at phnxlocker.com. Become a diehard today. You get a free shirt upon joining, and every single year of your membership. It is that darn easy. Hop in the Discord, have some fun. There's always great stuff going on. And especially if the season comes down to what it is, we're going to do some fun diehard exclusive stuff for our diehards, right? So check us out, phnxlocker.com. Hang out with us. Have a good time. The season's end. It's going to be chaos. Let's do it together. Alrighty. One thing, right, and I want to make sure that this doesn't get missed because it hasn't gotten brought up on tonight's episode on this podcast so far. But I don't know if you guys realize this, but producer Kyle was not in person. He was not in person. He gave the tease. He gave the tease that he was going to be in person, and he didn't follow through. And he thought he got away with it. And Kyle, for 90 plus minutes, you did. And then what happened? You were not in person on Saturday's matchup, and they lost. Can you explain your actions, please?
I wasn't paying attention. I blacked out.
Oh, yeah?
I looked at the last.
Oh, yeah.
You blacked out.
Attention.
You had a good time.
He wasn't paying attention,
Good
huh?
time.
I looked at
yeah.
the 70th minute. They were up 1-0. It's like, oh, okay. They don't. They don't need me there.
Up 1-0. Okay, I see how it is. It's inexcusable. Inexcusable.
Sorry, guys. All my fault.
Okay.
You know what though? On a separate note, since you were about to say something you didn't want to go under the radar, I'm shocked you didn't bring it up.
What's up?
Football yesterday.
Okay.
How is this man oblivious? You get what I'm hinting at here?
NFL? I'm kidding.
No. How is he not?
It's
brought
Man
up?
United.
I mean,
let's
I
be
know,
real.
but I'm
They
shocked.
stink.
Now it's hit him. Now.
I mean,
There'll be people in the chat probably that you can.
Here's the thing: when you're just
the
a
ones I
top,
can
when you're
see
just a
at the
top
minute, but-
club, you don't have to boast about these
You're not a
marquee
top
wins.
club.
I mean, we are. We beat
You went to Old Trafford and did absolutely batter them, but that's
We beat
That's
it-
what most clubs do nowadays.
Yeah.
We
that's
did it.
true, that's
No,
true.
don't let that
table,
don't let that take
13.
away from the fact that we were crushing them, that we are playing our brand of football. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's what we do. It's what we do. Who needs Champions League? We're playing on Thursday nights, baby. Let's go. It's good. It's good. And then we're gonna beat Man City in the cup too. Let's go. Chalk it up.
Yeah, I hate that. Everything about that. Matt.
Well, you got Arsenal had a nice signature win against Leicester. You guys really love your corners.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's basically a penalty kick at this point.
Oh boy. Kevin in the chat, this is actually a good point. Rising are 0-2 without Kyle in attendance. I mean, yeah, and they're 2-0 with him. Again,
Yeah,
Kyle, do the math. Kyle, show up.
I'll have to show up for this playoff run.
Oh,
They need me.
Kyle.
Wait, funny
that
joke.
means going on the road right now.
I don't know about
How
that,
does
but-
They're not
Sacramento
going to play any
sound?
home playoff games, even if they get in.
I mean, before getting into the
Okay.
playoffs.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what, 2 games left now? Monterey Bay and then Memphis?
Yeah, so you got
Yeah.
this Friday, and then you got the penultimate game on that Saturday there. So, yeah, all right, Kyle will be there. We got a Willis to victor. We need 6 points. We got 6 points because Kyle's coming, guys. So there we go. There's our margin for error. There's our cushion. Goodness, yeah. Let's see what else we got.
How'd Cardiff do this weekend?
No, I've already said we don't talk
Well,
about Cardiff on this
I
pod.
just wanted to
It's
see
a
if
We don't
things
talk about
changed.
Cardiff on this pod because there's language I'm not allowed to use.
I just wanted to know if they managed to win a match. And
No is the answer.
did they at least draw?
No.
I'm scared.
It was bad. Don't even look at the score right
Actually,
now.
wait, now
it was
we're-
multiple goals. It was 4-1.
Oh
Okay.
wow, that's pretty bad.
How'd Wrexham do?
They draw. I feel.
I don't know.
They won in our hearts.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, true. 0-0.
Oh boy, what a crucial point.
Lake Norian,
Crucial
big
point.
boys.
Big crucial
Lake
point.
Norian, that huge football club.
I'm sorry, Wrexham's near the top of their top of the table.
Second, actually.
Let's go. I said near
second.
the top.
Oh,
Near the top.
Sorry.
Near the top.
That sounds like that's a very Tottenham
How
statement.
dare you?
That's a huge.
We were having a good time. Don't no, Rees again. We got to
Lake Norian are also like 18th in League Two. But
get him. Oh boy, yeah. Listen, man, it's crazy. It's crazy in Europe. They're doing their thing. Yes, Kevin Cardiff did almost score a goal.
No, he did score a goal. Yeah,
did he score a goal? Cardiff plays tomorrow against Millwall. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. Okay. Well, what do we got? Any Champions League?
Yeah, Arsenal
about the
PSG
Champions.
tomorrow. That's the big one.
That's
the
actually
only
pretty
one.
good. I
Yeah.
will say that's actually a pretty good one. Okay. Do you like your chances?
No, not at all.
Dude, PSG is kind of
No,
Come on,
no
Rees.
Odegaard, no Marino. Don't like our chances.
That's fair.
I
We
mean,
got Leverkusen and Milan. That's a pretty good
That
one.
could be.
That's a pretty good match.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dortmund and Celtic. That's a sneaky
5-0 Dortmund.
No, not Brendan Managers. Yeah, I don't know. It won't be that. Owen, would you anything else in the USL that you like? Do we have any midweeks?
Any midweeks this week? That's a great question.
Survey says Louisville versus Miami FC.
Oh, what a match.
Do you want to see Miami FC subject itself to public humiliation?
I might throw some
Well,
money
have
on
I got the match for you? Probably the worst independent team in the history of the league.
I'm actually curious
Possibly
now.
the worst team in the history of the league.
Of humanity.
Anyway,
Of humanity.
including those reserve teams made up of kids.
How is that possible? Messi's on there.
Going away to Louisville City.
Good job,
Good
Max.
luck.
We had to get it in.
Good luck, Miami. You will
7-0
need
before
it.
halftime.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's going to be
Oh
ugly.
dear gosh! Well,
With Miami's goalkeeper.
listen, our friends over at Bed 365 is listen. If you would like to put some money on Miami FC against Louisville, you got them at plus 2,000 for a win. And but if you think maybe you feel maybe I want to throw some money on Louisville, yeah, they're minus 1,200. So they like them.
Boy.
They like them. I might throw some money on Miami. Might lose some money easily.
You will.
Max,
with your
when
betting
you bet
record,
money, you lose money. We know that. We all know that.
he's very charitable.
I'm a charitable guy. What can I say?
He is, but he's specifically needs to sometimes learn that his takes are not good.
No, I hit about 1 in 50, and boy, do I win.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, yeah, check my betting history. Well, I think that'll do it. I'm gonna end on that note. Appreciate everyone joining us here on the PHNX Rising podcast. Make sure to leave a like on your way out. Do it for producer Kyle. Compel him to show up on Friday. But yes, you can follow me, or excuse me, you can follow the show on Twitter at PHNX__rising because double the underscore.
Double the misery to end the season.
Sounds about right. You can follow me on Twitter at MaxDavidSimpson. You can follow Owen on Twitter at OJEvans18. You can follow Rees on Twitter at Rees11_. You can follow Kyle on Twitter at KCoopSports. We'll be back again Wednesday pod. No pod tomorrow. Wednesday pod. No pod tomorrow in anticipation for Friday's matchup. Okay, got a lot to go through. You know what we're going to do is going to be the full-on preview from both perspectives. So, till then, keep following us. Do your thing. Hit the like button. Rising needs it. It's a beautiful game, but it's way more beautiful when we move on to the next one. Good night.
We all silly like the mayor.